All right, we'll call this general committee meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Sorry we're running behind. Apologies on that. We start our meeting with the following land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are in the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude for the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. We'll now take 30 seconds to reflect on these principles. Please stand for the singing of the national anthem. In the Council for the City of Peterborough recognizes the principles contained in our Constitution and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Commissioner Blair Nelson, who I believe wanted to make an introduction. -001 dated February 18th, 2025 of the Chief Administrative Officer as follows. that the memorandum of settlement dated February 3rd, 2025 between the City of Peterborough and PPFFA Local 169 covering the contract period January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2028, as described in Council Session Report CAO-PC 25-001 be approved. Moved by Mayor Leal. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. Second item, litigation, that council approve the recommendation outlined in report LSOS 25-003 dated February 18th, 2025 of the city solicitor as follows, that staff be authorized to proceed as outlined in closed session report LSOCS 25-003 dated February 18th, 2025 of the city solicitor, litigation concerning title to lands. Moved by Councillor DeGay. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. Third item, agreement that council approve the recommendation outlined in report CSD 25-001 dated February 18th, 2024 of the Commissioner of Community Services as follows, that staff be authorized to proceed as outlined in closed session report CSD 25-001 dated February 18th, 2025 of the Commissioner of Community Services. Moved by Councillor Burke. Any comments or questions? We'll take a vote. And that is carried. Fourth item, plan that the verbal update provided by the Commissioner, Community Services be received for information. Moved by Councillor DeGay. Any comments or questions? Councillor Burke?
Yeah, Chair Beamer, I'm just looking for some clarity because I wanted to attach some direction or I wanted to have a motion that we could decide upon as a council for some direction in addition to this plan. The plan covered a lot of ground and the specifics that I brought up didn't warrant to be discussed and closed. Do I make a motion now?
So how about something to the effect of, and help me out, clerk first. Would it be a deferral or a move for additional plan? What would be best, defer it or? So how about Councillor Burke, that moved by Councillor Burke, that council ask staff to return back to a closed session committee with a plan with additional information.
Yeah.
Is that okay? And I think Commissioner Liebman's aware of the additional information you're seeking.
Thank you.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So moved by Councillor Burke to essentially defer this, and the plan will come back to a closed session report with additional information. Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to clarify the wording of the motion. I just might need my colleague, Commissioner Lehman, regarding is it a deferral or an addition to the existing plan to return to closed session with additional information. Just on the deferral, if you could clarify if that's the intent.
Through you, Chair Beamer, I think it would make more sense to do the latter that the clerk was mentioning to bring back further information related to the plan, because I'm not sure it's within council's authority to defer the actual underlying issue.
Okay, so Councilor Burke, how about receive for information? And then the plan come back to closed session with additional information. Is that fair? So just receiving it for information, nothing proceeds, just it's an info. And then the plan will come back to closed session with additional information. Okay, Commissioner Laban, does that sound good? So receive for information, plan come back to close with additional information, nothing proceeds. So moved by Councilor Burke. Any comments or questions on that? Sorry, did I see your hand? Okay, we'll take a vote.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll just provide that to my colleague here for the vote.
All right, we'll take a vote. And that is carried. All right. We'll move to a consent item. Committee members, let me know if you'd like to speak to the following items. 13A, requirement for water system and zoos transferred to the city of Peterborough. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Councilor Burke. 13B, downtown patio program administration and insurance options. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. 13C, will separate it as Councilor Hickey has a pecuniary interest. 13D, tower concurrence update. Anyone wishing to speak to that? Seeing none. All right, so up for consent this evening, we have 13B and 13D, moved by Councilor Parnell. We'll take a vote. That is carried. We have one item under the Planning Act this evening, and I'll pass it over to the Chair of Planning, Councilor Parnell. Councilor Parnell?
Thank you, Chair Beamer. So we will be discussing this evening a zoning bylaw amendment for 997 Armour Road. And of course, we'll start the evening off with a staff presentation by Christy Gilbertson, please. You have the floor.
Good evening, members of committee, Madam Chair. This evening, I'm presenting a staff report for a zoning bylaw amendment at 997 Armour Road. The property is located on the map in front of you. It's in front of Thomas A. Stewart Secondary School on Armour Road with Paddock Wood condominiums to the south, Peterborough Golf and Country Club to the east, as well as a pocket of residentially zoned properties over here. The dwelling is existing, and this is, if you've been by the property, this is as it appears today. And across the road, as I mentioned, there are residential properties, and so this is just an image showing directly to the east of the subject property, the 3 residential properties. Here is yet again another view, just kind of showing the high school in the background, and the location of the site is marked out in yellow. The owner of the property is a numbered company. This evening, their representative from EcoView Consulting Services is present, Aditya Srinivas. The current use of this property is as a single detached dwelling, and the proposed use is as a single detached dwelling with up to 2 additional residential units. The zoning amendment before you this evening is to rezone these lands from R1, R2 to a modified SP 31. And with some modifications to recognize the existing lot configuration, as well as to introduce a site-specific reduction from the center line of Armour to facilitate the construction of a proposed accessory structure. And finally, the reason for the rezoning to SP 31 will recognize the fact that this property to date is currently a partially serviced residential lot. So presently it has municipal water, however, it relies on a septic. Here's the conceptual site plan. This application was supported by provincial policy as well as the local municipal official plan, strategic plan, as well as meeting our targets under the housing pledge. This application went through the technical adequacy review, and as part of that, the applicant submitted a mailer for information purposes to all property owners within 120 meters, and no concerns were raised as a result of that mailer. As I mentioned, technical adequacy review occurred, reviewing the submitted materials. And so as a result of that, there were just 3 things to note. First was some adjustments to the language that was utilized in the archaeological assessment. Alderville First Nation provided very valuable input on that, so the applicant's team had that adjusted. The building division provided some commentary and just indicating that they will review the upgraded septic system if required at the building permit stage. And finally, that the subject application and development would be subject to the city's tree removal bylaw. Notice of this application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. So notice was provided to all landowners within 120 meters and people who requested notice and who are required notice under the Act. Since the preparation of the staff report, KPRDSB, so the public school board, did provide commentary as they are an adjacent property owner. And they just brought up some concern about potential removal of trees as well as grading, to which staff responded about the grading plan being fully vetted at the building permit stage. And I believe the applicant is here this evening and ready to speak to any questions that may arise to that. So in summary, it's recommended that the property be rezoned to SP 31 with the exception, and this would facilitate the addition of up to 2 ARUs in the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we do have a question from Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And Chrissy, thanks for speaking to the septic. That wasn't in this report, but you put it up there. But can you bring up the map and show me where the existing septic is and where the proposed one is going to go?
Through you, Madam Chair, I can't speak to where the existing septic is, but from my recollection with conversations with the applicant, I believe it's in the general vicinity of where the proposed structure would be. And then the proposed kind of location is kind of shown here, both the septic tanks and then the field. Admittedly, I'm not a septic expert. However, our in-house experts will fully review it as part of the permit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duguay, please.
Thank you, Chair Parnell. Mrs. Gilbertson, welcome back. Nice to see pictures of Peterborough buildings without snow-covered driveways. That's a welcomed view. Mrs. Gilbertson, with respect to site servicing, the development is relying upon private wastewater. Is there not the possibility of municipal wastewater infrastructure in proximity, or is it too much of a cost to extend it to this property?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's either at the trail, so to the west of the school site, or quite a bit further south of the site at Paddock Wood, and then again to the north. So it would be cost prohibitive, I believe, for the applicant to go through that in an effort to supply the two ARUs.
That's fine. That was my understanding, but thank you for the clarification.
Councillor Riel, please.
Through the chair to Ms. Gilbertson, I live in close proximity to this place. Where is the driveway? Because I've been by this house several times. It is kind of a hangout for the students at Thomas A. Stewart. So, and the side of the house to the north is right up to the driveway of Thomas A. Stewart. Or is kind of a bus loading area. So where is the driveway for this residential property to come out on Armor Road? Because I don't know if there is one there.
Through you, Madam Chair, as shown on the image above, the established driveway is directly to the north of the dwelling. And then there's the parking area to be established in the rear, which will allow forward-facing entry of vehicles onto Armor Road.
Speak 1,000 words. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Duguay for second time.
Sorry, I was jumping the gun. I was prepared to move the report, but I believe the applicant needs to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for Ms. Gilbertson? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one registered delegate to speak to this from EcoView Consulting Services. If you'd like to come forward, please state your name and address for the record, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aditya Srinivas. I'm a planner at EcoView Consulting, and today I'll be representing the owners, Vischer Property Group. So I think Ms. Gilbertson did a fantastic job in going over the property, so I don't have anything else to add. I'm here, however, to respond to the two concerns from Kawartha Pine Ridge School Board. One regarding lack of landscaping, and then two was stormwater impact. So as you can see right over there, the property is located south of Thomas A. Stewart. So it's abutting the northern and the western boundary. And I do believe there is sufficient vegetation, and this will not be, the proposed development will not impact the existing vegetation, because the detached ARU will be located to the south of the dwelling. And also the parking area will be located to the rear. And although it would be close to the western boundary, I don't believe it's gonna eat up all of that vegetation over there. This will need to be confirmed during the building permit stage. They will be needing a tree removal application, and then when they review it, I think it'll be confirmed. Second thing regarding stormwater impact, we did include a preliminary grading plan in the submission, and when we received the comments from KPRSB, we did run it by Engage Engineering, who actually prepared the preliminary grading plan, and they believe that it should not be a concern. Again, detailed design, detailed lot grading plan will be provided during the building permit stage, and yeah, I think I don't believe there's any concerns from the proposed development, and I believe that this development is going to provide 2 additional residential units, and it'll contribute to the housing inventory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Any questions for our delegation this evening? Seeing none, thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Duguay, please.
Now I'll move the staff report and its attendant recommendation.
Thank you. You didn't want to speak to it? You just want to move it?
It's self-explanatory. I'm satisfied with the explanation on the wastewater facilities. The staff will, through the rigors of the building permit process, address grading, tree removal. This is an appropriate additional residential unit development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments? Mayor Leal, please.
Thanks very much. This is a a very positive example of infilling, which will increase density. And you address the city of Peterborough's housing challenges one unit at a time. And through approval of this evening, Madam Chair, we'll add 2 units to the inventory.
Thank you, sir. Last call for any comments. Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Madam Clerk, please. And that carries unanimously. Thank you. And back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Purnell. So committee reports 13A, requirement for water system and zoo transfer to the city of Peterborough. Councillor Burke.
Yes, thank you. And, you know, what I might be doing may be unpopular, but I'm going to make a motion to defer this decision. And, you know, I really want to ensure as a councillor that I fully understand how this decision changes my personal liability, particularly under the Safe Drinking Water Act. We're assuming direct responsibility for compliance, operational oversight, public breach, water contamination, or failure to maintain infrastructure. And we as councillors could be personally liable under the Standard of Care Provisions Act. And it's not that I don't want us to move forward with this, but it's that I feel like there was a big step that was jumped between the last time that we were talking about this in camera and what happened at that meeting, to have this all be just in our general committee agenda and have 4 days to look it over. And, you know, my motion to defer, I think that it makes sense. We have in March coming up a day of council and information meeting where I think would be more appropriate to give this topic the amount of time it deserves, so that we as councillors, so that I as a councillor can understand it and like get a chance to ask, you know, the 2 pages of questions that I have about this very drastic decision, that a big decision that we're making. And so for those reasons, I move to defer.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Burke to defer for more information, more fulsome discussion. Okay, in March, I guess. So, okay, moved by Councillor Burke, Councillor Purnell, Riel, Crowley. Councillor Purnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At first, I was going to ask that the items be separated, but I won't request that now unless this deferral passes. But I will not be supporting the deferral. As much as I wasn't in favor of this big change to start with, it has been the majority will of this council to move water and the zoo and IT in directly into the city versus it being our own with our utility company. A deferral at this point would serve no purpose. We have all of these employees who have been waiting and waiting and waiting for reassurance that their jobs were going to be protected. And with that, Mr. Chair, may I ask a question through you? I know CAO Rain is remote tonight, but perhaps somebody can reassure us about these job offers and acceptance for all of the employees, please.
Commissioner Friedman, if you wanted to add any additional comments, or CAO Reyna, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. So good evening to everybody. So first of all, my apologies. Because of sickness, I couldn't be present in person. So through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to say that everything has been done. All the job offers we have received, we sent it to the non-union and received it back, the sign. All the union things have been done, no issues. I also want to say that when the Councillor Burke has raised a point that whether this side or that side, even when the PUC was still with the COFI, the way it is with the COFI, it is still at that time also the council was responsible. It's just that this is just a time sensitive need, which I will defer it on to the Commissioner Elmore to explain further. Otherwise, the zoo We have spoken, we have done all the paperwork, everything has been done. So majority of the work has been completed. There's no hanky-panky going on there. We have whatever, as per the legislation rules and regulations, we have done it. So I will definitely he's the main lead for this transition. So Commissioner Elmar can explain further.
Commissioner. Go ahead, Simpsonovsky.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. So this report is coming at a time where we need to have certain elements in submission to the province for licensing, and there's a 30-day review period. So we've timed this report, and apologies for it coming at this point in time. Ideally, we would have had it sooner. However, there were a number of elements that had to be completed as part of this transition period. The three pieces of this report that are vital for moving forward for April 1st are the dissolution of the PUC, the financial plan, which is essentially a demonstration of commitment of financial resources for the operation and future investment of the water system, and the third piece being the operational plan, which is essentially the structure and the organization and how the system will be maintained. And speaking to council's liability, we also do plan for a council workshop, which is actually separate and specific to ensure that you're trained and informed of your responsibilities and duties and how you're protected in the system. And essentially the protection is as basic as demonstrating council's commitment to making the investments that staff are identifying as necessary to sustain the water system and ensure safe drinking water. So the liability is geared specifically to demonstrate council's commitment to the management system, the investments that are required, and staff's expertise, because staff are licensed and trained to operate the system directly, to ensure that the resources are in place that they can do that. So the risk isn't really a question of what council's decisions are. The risk is around not ensuring that the system is properly funded and resourced to operate, if that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Councilor Purnell, deferral.
Yes. Again, I will not be supporting a deferral. So much work has been done to this. We've heard that we are already responsible for the standard of care. Even though 5 of us were on the Peterborough Utilities Commission, all of council has always been responsible for it. It was almost like a delegated authority to those of us on the commission. The employees have been protected. So much work has been done to ensure that our zoo operations will be maintained, hopefully improved with some great things, some ideas coming forward. But definitely it's time sensitive for the safety of our drinking water, all of those regulations, for the CASA certification, for the zoo, and bringing IT in-house. So I have no deferral from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor Purnell. Speaking to the deferral, Councilor Reel and La Chica. Councilor Reel.
Chair, I hope you give me some leeway here, because I had a number of questions, and I think it pertains to the deferral.
Okay.
Through either CEO Reyna or Commissioner Simonowski, what audit process was used in transferring this asset to the city?
Commissioner Simonowski.
Mr. Chairman, if you would permit me, I would respond on behalf of the financial audit. Mr. Chairman, the financial audit for the PUC for December 31st, 2024 is happening as we speak. I was speaking with the auditor today, and as well, I was asking the auditor to book an engagement so that it will be audited as at March 31st as well. So those financial statements, the books will be audited at that point in time. Thank you.
Through the chair, I mean, that's kind of building off what Councillor Burke is talking about. Not that he's not in favor of transfer of the water, but you need an audit process for what is the financial part of the business, what is the liabilities, and the cost to improve and update the system. So if we're waiting till March for the auditor to come with that audit statement from the business of the PUC, is this not the cart before the horse?
Mr. Chairman, absolutely not. The financial statement audit would always follow the close or dissolution of the PUC, and in terms of the balances being transferred. The dissolution bylaw and the transfer of assets bylaw is the physical assets that will be transferred as of April 1st. So all that's taken care of, and then the financial statement audit would follow that. That would be the natural order.
Chair to Mr. Freeman, on page 42, why is there a decrease in cash going out to 2030? From the 2023 actuals of 25 million, the 18 million in 2030.
Mr. Chairman, that goes back to what Mr. Simonauskas, Commissioner, just said a few moments ago in terms of the investments that are planned in the capital upgrades to the water treatment plant, as well as all the infrastructure associated with water services. That financial plan is detailed in the appendix for council this evening. That's part of the package that will be submitted to the province, and it shows council's commitment to ensure safe drinking water in the community.
Chair to Mr. Freeman, I mean, why is there an increase in administrative expenses? If you're bringing this business in-house and we already have a group of companies already in the city, why would the administrative costs be going up?
Mr. Chairman, as council will recall, when we council approved the budget earlier in February 3rd, the administrative costs for 2025 actually was a decrease over the previous year. Admittedly, it is 2025 is a transition year, as staff, as we forecasted out, it would only be natural that we increase those administrative costs on some sort of inflationary factor moving forward as we project out to 2030.
Through the chair, my last, and building on Councillor Parnell, your flow chart here of what the business is. Right at the top of it should not be the CEO of the city. There should be the council of the city of Peterborough. Every one of us is responsible for the water, not the CEO of the city. So under the Walkerton and what happened in Walkerton, council is responsible for water, not the CEO of the city. So I'm looking at this flow chart. Right at the top is the CEO, and it goes down to the business model of the managers and all this stuff. Actually, the PUC and people, some of us have sat on the PUC board, all of us on council, non-city staff, are responsible for water. So right at the top of the flow chart should be City Council of Peterborough.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. Council is responsible, and the legislation clearly identifies that responsibility. We can amend the report. The operation plan is really intended to demonstrate the structure that's in place that supports council in their responsibility. And really, this is an audit. This document is actually audited as a methodology to ensure that staff are actually implementing the structure and the accountability to the CEO. The CEO's accountability is to ensure that this plan is implemented, and then that demonstration is brought back to council. So council's accountability is to ensure that the system is actually supported. However, we can add some verbiage into the operating plan to ensure that we clearly cover that accountability.
Thank you very much. I'd like to see that, because when I was on the COFI board, I made it quite clear to COFI board, none of you sitting on the COFI board are responsible for water. The council of the city of Peterborough is responsible for water, and I take that very personally. So I would like to see that change made.
Thank you, Councillor L. Yep.
I mean, just to confirm as well, when the training for council happens, and what I've seen in the past with council training is you will be requested to sign off on a documentation that shows that you were trained, that demonstrates that the training was delivered and that you had any questions answered, and that you have comfort in the responsibilities that you're assuming as part of that role. So all this documentation is part of that audit trail as well.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you very much, Councillor Will. Speaking to the deferral, Councillor Lee Chica, Burke for a second time, Duguay. Councillor Chica.
Thank you very much, Chair Beamer. Through you to Commissioner Simonauskas, I just wanted to just to say that we've been waiting for this, and we're thrilled that it's before us. So thanks to you and your team for compiling this. It's dense, and I'm a reader, and I took time to read it, but I'm appreciating what Councillor Burke said about you know, because of its volume, its density, and what we're called to in terms of responsibility and a deep knowledge, so that we have a deep knowledge. We appreciate that there will be an in-service, a training. That was going to be my question. And if that will be happening, because we did all support this together to bring water in-house, I think I'm satisfied with the fact that the in-servicing will be coming forward. It will be great to hear about the formation of this and what may be different from Colfie's operational plan. What are the changes? What are the improvements? So I'm sure that we'll have a fulsome discussion at that time. So I thank you to the team, and for that reason, I won't be supporting the deferral. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lachika. To the deferral, Councillor Burke, second time.
Yeah, thanks. I think that I'm not against the idea of doing this in terms of the long process that we've endured to bring the water in-house. But what I am asking for in the deferral is it'll give us a greater period to connect with staff offline with the many questions. It'll give me a greater time frame to connect with staff offline, to not just receive the answers to the many questions I have, but to also maybe have the chance to have a conversation. And you know, as a counselor, I think that it's my duty to understand the decisions that I'm getting into. And you know, I don't think that tonight, if this deferral fails on the main motion, that I'll have enough time to receive the answers to the questions that I have from the report. And so that's all I'm asking for. I'm not at all against the idea. I understand that there's a time frame on it, you know, but I'm flexible enough to be able to make myself available at whatever opportunity to have a little bit of time with staff, whatever that looks like, to really understand this big decision that we're making.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Burke. Councillor Duguay, for deferral.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. I will not support the deferral. To staff, to Commissioner Simnovsky and Commissioner Freeman, this is a comprehensive report. It's anticipated that we've been expecting this. We've always had a responsibility for safe drinking water. We're responsible. It's our company. So that hasn't changed. We're aware that through this agreement that there will be some training, not unlike with the Conservation Authority. There's certain training that we have to undertake. It's very similar. I'm assuming with the police, there's certain training that you would have to undertake. So I'm very comfortable with the report, its thoroughness. And I am very happy that our I think we've made the right decision insofar as the utility, the infrastructure, and moreover, the zoo. So a deferral, I would think, with all due respect, doesn't serve a purpose. I think there's a timeliness here and a reporting responsibility to provincial government, and that's paramount. We need to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Duguay. Any further comments or questions to the deferral? Councillor Burke, third and final.
And so just to sort of pick up on the conversation, which is about our personal liability, like it's beyond the way that it's being pitched. I have specific questions, and so I'd like to ask what governance measures are in place to ensure that council is going to receive regular compliance reports and can effectively oversee risk management.
Commissioner Freeman.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of thoughts for the councillor. And I know myself, councillor, I would be more than happy to meet with you between now and next week's council meeting to just unpack what is in the report for your specific questions and the list of questions that you have. I'm offering you that from a finance perspective. I believe Mr. Simonauskas would do that from an operational perspective. Together, I think we could answer the majority of your questions. As your council colleagues have already alluded to, you're responsible today for the safe drinking water in the city of Peterborough, and you're doing that blindly. And so others are assisting in that. And this, we're bringing what's coming to council is a very transparent process that now you will begin to engage in that conversation to ensure that you're fulfilling your fiduciary responsibilities. And it begins with this report. It begins with the council training on March 20th. And we can help unpack that for you. So anyway, I would just, Mr. Chairman, hopefully those comments would be of assistance and want to make sure we're available to the council.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, and I'll take you up on that offer. The question was about what governance measures are in place to ensure that council will receive regular compliance reports and can effectively oversee the risk management.
Certainly through you, Mr. Chair. So the regulations are very explicit in ensuring that there's a multi-barrier approach to protection of safe drinking water. One of the elements that is very critical is the documentation of performance of the system and an annual report, which is a public document. And if you go onto the PUC website now, you will see those documents that are posted every year. They need to be posted by the end of March. The report for 2024 for last year is one of the it is the last report that will be posted on the PUC website, and then all that will be carried over to the city. Those documents are also presented in a council report to council as being endorsed by council, so the council sees that information. And as Mr. Friedman mentioned, I'm also very happy to meet with you. I have been working with the operations staff both at the plant and on the linear system since early January as this transition has unfolded. And I'm incredibly impressed by their professionalism and knowledge of the system. Have had a tour of the water system, and I would also open that to anyone who's interested in seeing that in the next week. We can definitely arrange that very quickly. I do believe we're inheriting or we're assuming a very robust system that has been very well managed. So I'm looking forward to actually working with the staff that we have there.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Burke. Deferral, Mayor Lill.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just have a couple questions. Commissioner Szymanowski, we've reviewed all the physical plant and equipment, and what is your professional view on the shape of that equipment?
Certainly through Mr. Chair, just to carry on with that conversation, I have had an opportunity to inspect the facilities, to have a tour of the operations, to meet with the management team as part of each of their roles, both at the production level and the distribution level. And the system is in good shape. It's amazing, actually, some of the infrastructure, the dam and generating system that we've also assumed as part of this, which pumps the water by the river power. Amazing infrastructure that we're assuming, and the capital plan that they have. There's a number of projects that are being awarded this month as you move through the transition, and the care that staff have in making sure those projects proceed in a timely fashion. So essentially, the system is running in a great performance. Their reports are stellar, and water quality has been phenomenal. Considering we work with the river system, which is challenging in and of itself, with as you are aware, with temperature, with water quality issues, with contamination risks, what we have in place is amazing, and the staff are incredibly responsive to any community issues that happen. So I'm again proud to be bringing the system in and being part of it.
If I could continue, Mr. Chair, Mr. Szymanowski, it might be helpful certainly for Councillor Burke and the rest of us, if we could get a number of excerpts from the legislation, the Clean Water Act, Province of Ontario, and previous life I was involved in that, because it really goes to the heart of governance issues, responsibility issues, based on the 23 recommendations from Justice O'Connor.
Certainly through you. I have been working with the PUC staff that will be doing the training. Patricia is their compliance officer, and she's the one that does all that work. What I can do is actually have her prepare the package for distribution, which has the outline, which will be the formal presentation, but it does have that sort of that information package with all the bits and pieces that give you that understanding of how the process has been developed, what's driving it, and the benefits of the new program that was put in after the 2000 Walkerton disaster. So by all means, I'm happy to share that information in advance of next week.
If I could continue, Mr. Chair, a couple more questions. Mr. Szymanowski, we also, right along the Otonabee River, we have designated source water protection zones. Is that correct? To ensure the quality of our drinking water.
That is correct. Source water protection, again, is a big part of the province's protection plan, and that was something that was put into place as part of the Walkerton events. Those protection zones are shown on our maps, our planning maps. There's restrictions of what can happen in those areas, and of course, there's also very clear risk protocols and emergency response plans to protect any risk of contamination of water, including shutting off intakes, and drastic measures such as that to ensure that that water does not get into our system.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Rena is with us, right?
He is, yes.
Can I ask a question to our CEO why April 1st is critical?
Absolutely. CEO Rena, April 1st. CEO Rena, you may be on mute.
My apologies. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. It's critical because at the end of the day, I just want to make it clear here, sir, just for the sake of reference, that April 1st is critical because it will ensure the total smooth transition to happen, and there is a lot of reporting that needs to be done, and the time is the essence, because the moment more we delay it, because we want to take the full ownership of this, so that the COFI can just go and focus on the power generation business, which is their main mandate. So that currently they are taking care of this, they are taking care of that too. So this is so critical, so that the COFI, the main mandate is the power generation. So let them go and excel in that, and we will provide them full support. And all water distribution is a part of municipal operations. This is a typical service delivery. So we want to take it so that they can focus on their core mandate. I hope I answered your question, sir.
Thanks, Theo. And I'll just close by saying, if you ever get time to read it, Justice O'Connor's report is one of the most insightful judicial reports ever done in the province of Ontario about drinking water, and it's highly informative and really puts the frame around a decision that we're making this evening. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lil, for that. Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, Joanna, you sure? Okay, good discussion, but Councillor Burke's going to withdraw the motion. Okay, so the deferrals moved by Councillor DeGay, the main motion. Okay, any comments or questions on the main motion? Councillor Burke, main motion.
I just have a question for Mr. Simonovsky or Mr. Freeman, please, through the chair. And maybe I missed this in the report, but is there a breakdown of the $2.8 million in savings that we're getting by bringing the service in-house?
Mr. Chairman, I believe the councillor, you're referring to the original consultant's report that was done a couple of years back. Am I correct?
I have it in my notes. I can find it.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, if you recall at the time, that was an estimate by the consultant. There is not a detailed breakdown in the report. To answer your specific question, that was savings both as a result of that would be enjoyed by the water services as well as the city itself. It was really the combined aspect from two different perspectives. And so as the transition happens and as the synergies and the efficiencies with operations are realized between water and wastewater, because that's now today where the efficiencies are, we will begin to realize those savings.
Thanks. And through you, Chair Beamer, what specific financial or operational decisions are being delegated to staff under this transition? Will council retain the final approval on major financial decisions such as rate setting, capital investments, operational budgets? What does that look like? And are there thresholds in place that require council approval for significant expenditures or policy change?
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to start that response, and Commissioner Simonovsky can supplement my answer. So moving forward, all of the city policies that council has previously approved and put in place for staff to follow. So the delegated authority through procurement that was passed most recently, not that long ago, actually. Talking about centralized procurement, when we update the bylaw in 2024, for instance, using that as an example, all of those existing policies will now be, water services will be subject to those policies. So when it comes to rate setting, budget approval, procurement, all the existing council approved policies, water services will now be subject to those policies. Commissioner, do you want to add anything to that?
Unless there's anything further, that's essentially what I was going to suggest is that we're going to follow all of our process at the city. That's actually already been happening with regards to some of these larger contracts that the PUC is looking to tender under our banner. So that's in place. And maybe one other piece on this, and it's really around personal accountability for me, the importance of understanding how the system is operating. We do have our financial plan. We do have the system in place. We do have the staff's experience and knowledge of the system. I too want to undergo a personal audit, both financially and operation of the system, so that I have a clear understanding of where we're spending our money, why we're spending it, and to do that due diligence from a technical perspective. So that's also something that will be coming back as part of our updates to this council, both through the audit process that we do on the water system, as well as me personally as the commissioner of the department, ensuring that the system we're assuming has, I'm comfortable that everything is in place.
Thank you. And Chair Beamer, I'll wrap it up with the question, please, through you to Commissioner Laidman. What specific changes, if any, are anticipated for the management and operation of the zoo?
Through you, Chair Beamer, I think that's the easiest answer of the evening. It's fully staff's intention that the operation of the zoo will continue as it always has under the Cultural Services Division of Community Services. So their management structure, their employee structure, their way of doing business is not expected to change at this point in time, and we'll be working with the advisory committee to ensure that all the accreditation and all those things continue as is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Burke. Councillor Hill, did I see your hand? Yep, Councillor Hill.
Through the chair, this is in 6 years.
Just a little closer to the mic, Councillor, just so the people at home can hear you.
This has been 6 years in the making. I would like to shout out to the previous council for having the foresight of moving this forward, but also the former CEO of the city, Sandra Clancy, for hiring a consultant to get us to this point that it was necessary to bring water in-house. And I think a shout out to her and certainly the previous council, and here we are today, and some finality bringing water in-house. It's something that's long overdue. It's something that's happening. And I think this is a watershed moment for this council that we have some finality of bringing water in-house.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Hill. CEO Reyna, did I see your hand?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say a few comments here, just so that, just for the sake of reference, that during this transition, nobody has been laid off. There are no job losses, and all the union agreements have been entertained the way they are currently. So, and also suppose the 1st of April, what will happen that the same people who go every day and switch on the breakers, they are the people who will be doing it. So there will be no interruption to the whole service. So that's one point. The second point I want to refer to the Councillor Burke point about the budget. So this is the time that we want to align their capital plan about the water mains and everything with the road and bridges. This is the golden opportunity for us, because earlier, I don't know if you go and build a road and after 1 year, people used to come, they say, oh, I want to repair my water pipe. So this is, again, we will be consolidating the capital plan, and then all the budget requests will come to the council for the long-term capital planning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, CEO Reyna. Good points. Further comments or questions? Moved by Councillor DeGay, we'll take a vote. No. And that is carried. Thanks, everyone. All right, our final committee item, 13C, Carnegie Planning Area Heritage Park Subdivision Information Report. Can I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor DeGay. Any comments or questions? Sorry, everyone, just a few questions, since it's a sort of North End subdivision. Mr. Appleby, Director Appleby, just a few questions. There's a bridge in there that's caused some issues over the years. It's falling apart and the residents have concerns about it. I think it was the responsibility or the ownership of Activa. I think it's now the city. Is there any plans to have that bridge finally removed from the retention pond area?
Mr. Chair, there is staff plan to remove that facility once sort of budget and staff resources are in place. That is the plan for that.
All right. Director Appleby, when we talk about future planning and future public consultation, that will include a transportation plan or a traffic plan for that area?
Mr. Chair, certainly as part of sort of the bigger picture planning for that area, transportation would need to be looked at.
Okay, and just last question, Director, when we talk about the public consultation, can we make sure that obviously the residents who reside in the Heritage Park area need to be included, but can we ensure that the Cumberland residents are included, particularly when we're talking about transportation and traffic?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that the broader neighborhood, thinking about where this all started from, the broader neighborhood would be sort of given that opportunity.
Thanks, Director. I think that's important, that broader area, considering the history of this subdivision. And many of the residents in that area remember the history of 10, 15, 20 years ago. They were at those contentious meetings, and I think they'll be at them again. So as long as we can invite the whole area. Just quickly, I think it's important to point out one of the big issues in this area is traffic, whether it's looking at a second exit entrance out of Heritage subdivision or the traffic concerns around Cumberland. That's a very busy road. I know the residents of Cumberland feel they've been ignored for years and years and years as there's been build out in the subdivision with very little transportation solutions. So if we're looking at additional houses in that area, there's going to be additional traffic on Cumberland, and we finally need to come up with a traffic solution, big and small. Small, I mean maybe traffic calming, and big, I mean, additional road capacity out onto Hilliard around Water Street. But this is an important discussion point for those residents in that area is traffic on Cumberland, and we need to have a transportation plan if we're looking at expanding that subdivision. So thank you for your work on this, Mr. Appleby, and I'm sure I'll be in touch as this proceeds. So, and in fairness, this is an issue that we're dealing with all over the city. I know the two Ashburnham ward councillors are dealing it with Ashborough. We build the subdivision, but the infrastructure and the traffic plan doesn't come with it. So I know Councillor Baldwin and Councillor Real could speak to this as well, but this is not only a North End issue, it's an issue across the city. But I'm just speaking for North End right now. But if we're going to build more houses, we need to make sure the traffic plan and the transportation plan is there to deal with all the additional traffic. Councillor DeGay.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. And I do concur with your comments and questions of Director Appleby. There are associated with this development some large residual parcels of vacant parcels of land. And if I might, Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Appleby, Director Appleby, we did discuss previously in what our portfolio meeting, the whole notion about, is this an opportunity to revisit a secondary plan to tie in such matters as transportation, environment, housing production, servicing and like? So would it be an opportunity to reconsider a secondary plan? Because I also believe there are shoulder lands that this company or others own considerable lands on the more, I'll describe it, a westerly boundary, if I'm not mistaken, that is in the township. So would this be a development that would benefit from secondary plan, even though it was turned down previous councils? This is a different era, but would the long-term plan benefit from a secondary plan?
Through the chair, I would suggest yes. You have more than one landowner in this area, and there's a need to coordinate the servicing, the transportation network, and so on across multiple properties. And so it would be very helpful to have a secondary plan for this area.
Mr. Chairman, I have a supplementary question. Director Appleby, this is not to pre-commit the property owners, but do you anticipate a willingness of those property owners to participate financially in such an exercise, or would this be a responsibility borne by the community and thus the ratepayers?
Mr. Chair, I don't know, in terms of how the development community might want to participate in this. What I would say is it begins with starting a conversation, right? And to see what our options are. And so one of the recommendations, of course, in this report is to come back to council with some more information at a future date around how we move forward for, a broader secondary plan and how, how do you pay for that?
Final then comment to Chair Beamer to Director Appleby. As part of that supplementary report, I would welcome some commentary on the very matter of the various property owners. And is there a willingness of those property owners to participate in the exercise? Because they would clearly benefit from a modern secondary plan. So I would welcome that as part of the supplementary report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Duguay. Any further comments or questions? Moved by Councillor Duguay. We'll take a vote. And that is carried, and we'll note that Councillor Hakey had declared a pecuniary and did not participate or vote. All right, so we do have one notice of motion this evening. Councillor Baldwin.
Before I get going, Mr. Chair, nice to see the light bulb come on to the North End Councillor with respect to transportation. It's been about 6 years, but it's nice to see if you've come our way a little bit. I can recall that 9-2 vote about 5 years ago. Nevertheless, question to you, Mr. Chair, to the clerk. Do I need to read it all, Mr. Clerk? It's posted, or could I just make a few remarks with respect to the notice of motion?
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the question. We do have most of it, what will fit on our screen posted. So I think subject to any council's concerns, you can proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, this is a motion that's similar, that's been approved by 150 municipalities across the province. It's calling on the provincial government to redistribute a portion of the land transfer tax and the federal government to allocate a part of the GST on new home sales. This motion is intended to have our municipality join the other 140 municipalities in Ontario who have passed such a motion. Passing this motion, colleagues, to send a request to redistribute funds to Peterborough will enable the corporation to benefit from predictable and sustainable funding, which will enable our staff to will allow our professional staff to plan better for long-term projects and investment in infrastructure projects that benefit the community. I've been thinking about bringing this for quite some time. I did have a very brief discussion with Mayor Leal a few weeks ago. We thought it was a good and appropriate motion to bring forward for council's consideration. And we've heard recently, not only through our constituents, but others about our finances and how our finances are being challenged and how the city of Peterborough isn't doing with our finances what we should be doing. And I think everybody knows with whom I'm speaking about. I would take exception with that. I'd like this to come forward and for council consideration. This will allow us to have some financial security on a long-term basis annually to allow our staff and council to make decisions with respect to infrastructure needs. I think the last time, Mr. Chair, we talked about it, we had about a $1.5 billion infrastructure deficit. I'm hoping we can add our voice to the other 140 communities that have already passed this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Baldwin. Speaking to that, Mayor Leal.
I think it's terrific that Councillor Baldwin is bringing forward this night because it was his predecessor in 1849, the Baldwin Act, that essentially gave us the system of financing municipalities in Ontario today. So your ancestors, you're correcting the historical record tonight, Councillor Baldwin.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor Leal. Any comments or questions on the notice of motion? All right, moved by Councillor Baldwin. Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. Okay, no other business. I have Mayor Leal and Councillor Duguay. Mayor Leal.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Mr. Chair, as you know, the President of the United States has certainly indicated that there will be 25% tariffs on on Canadian goods and services in the next little while. We have a motion that I'm putting forward this evening. It is a result of a forum that was held last week, conveyed by myself and Warden Clark with the Chamber of Commerce to bring together businesses in Peterborough to get a sense of the impact that a 25% tariff on Canadian goods and services would mean to their businesses. Whereas the federal government is currently in negotiations with the U.S. government on the proposed 25% tariffs on Canadian goods exported to the U.S. And whereas Premier Doug Ford has outlined several plans to combat the impact of proposed tariffs would have on Ontario, including Fortress AmCan, which focuses on strengthening trade between Ontario and the United States while bringing good jobs back home for workers on both sides of the border. And whereas the federal government has also outlined several ways to address the current relationship with the United States, including establishment of council on Canadian-U.S. relations to support the federal government as it negotiates with the United States on tariffs. And whereas Ontario is the number one or number two customer for at least 7 U.S. states, including New York, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Missouri. And trade between Ontario and the United States is very important to our residents and local economies and requires all levels of government to work together in the best interest of these residents. And whereas according to data from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, across Ontario, municipalities are expected to spend between 250 and 290 billion on infrastructure in the next 10 years. And whereas municipalities, although currently subject to various trade agreements, including the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, have traditionally treated all procurements from trade partners equally and fairly. And whereas municipalities can assist in the Team Canada effort to combat tariffs and support businesses in our procurement for equipment, materials, and supplies for both operating and capital infrastructure programs, and whereas there are trade barriers between Canadian provinces that add cost to create inefficiencies in the movements of goods, be it resolved that the City of Peterborough supports Team Canada and the provincial and federal governments on measures they've put in place in response to the proposed U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods, and asks that they take any and all measures to protect the interests of Ontario in any upcoming trade negotiations, and that the federal and provincial governments remove any impediments to municipalities preferring Canadian companies and service for capital projects and other supplies, and that the province and federal governments take action to remove trade barriers between provinces as a response to U.S. tariffs and support Canadian businesses, and that the Commissioner of Finance and Corporate Services be directed to bring back a report detailing a temporary procurement policy that integrates and addresses these concerns to the greatest extent possible. And there's a list of people, Mr. Chair, that it's being copied to.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor Leal. So comments or questions, speakers? Councillor Lachika and Heikki. Councillor Lachika.
Thank you, Chair Beamer. I just want to thank Mayor Leal for bringing this forward. I think we're all stunned as we watch what's happening before our eyes. And I was encouraged to read that Mayor Selwyn Senes had brought this forward in the county, and that we as an industrial city, we have such a tradition and legacy of all of that. And just how it will affect workers, businesses, industry here in Peterborough. I think it's very meaningful that not just federal, provincial levels of government, but also municipal levels of government acknowledge what communities may be facing with the threat that's in front of us. So happy to be supporting this motion. Thank you, Mayor Leal and Chair Beamer.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Lachika. Councillor Heikki.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Your Worship, for bringing it forward. I find it very sad that we're put in a position which we put ourselves in, not us as a municipality, but generally as a country. And it takes a foreign country to try and right our ship that should have been done beforehand. And I'm not getting into the politics of it. I'm just, I'm annoyed. I'm fed up with both sides of the ledger on this. We've been pushing, I've been asking at council here for the longest time that we need to start pushing things back up. So the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and all of them in Canada have been pushing that with zero results or close to it. What does it take? Some guy with orange hair out of the US to get us on our game. And the nice thing is, I saw all the Canadian flags. I happened to fly one year round in my backyard, very happy to do so, but it was really nice because it started pulling people together. I went into the grocery store in the North End and I had a woman say, "Oh, you're buying vegetables?" "Yes." "What kind?" And I go, "Well, I'm hoping to get well, they're from the US." And I said, "Seasonal." And so we had a discussion about it. She was very kind, but she was pretty firm that I should not be buying vegetables from the US. And it's not that I wanted to, but my wife insisted I do. So, but that's this motion, and those that know me know I'm not big on sending motions to governments. This is long overdue, and it can't be the last of it. We have to keep going because we're going to be in a fight pretty soon. And I know that Peterborough, and that's who we're really supporting here, the Peterborough businesses, and I've spoken with a lot of them that manufacture auto parts, and they're worried, and rightfully so. But you have somebody totally unhinged south of us, in my view, and he's going to do more damage to his own economy and ours in the process. So we can't have enough of these. We have to really be pushing it. We have to talk. All of us need to be talking all the time, federally and provincially, and keep pushing it up. And it's long overdue. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Harkey. Any further comments or questions? Okay, we'll take a vote. Moved by Mayor Leal. And we'll need 2/3. And that is carried. Thank you, Mayor Leal. Other business, Councillor DeGay.
Thank you, Chair Beamer, and to my colleagues. I'd like to rise on a point of privilege, if I might, and I'm actually going to stand up to recite this. Hopefully, I'm short enough that the microphone will, and Councillor Burke, you can't laugh at that, okay? So I rise as a point of privilege to address recent comments of MPP Smith regarding housing and the city of Peterborough. This, I stand before you as a council member and a resident of Peterborough, and I'd like to correct a record. It's very important because these comments were in print media and various media forms, and factually, they're simply not correct. Insofar as available land, the city has sufficient land to accommodate residential development to 2051. A combination of greenfield and infill lands accordingly. Council recently directed staff to look at ways to get a secondary plan for Cold Spring, some additional lands. So the comments in the media was that we do not have lands available for residential development. We absolutely do. Secondly, the city's sufficiency, the city's residential land was confirmed by the province of Ontario's approval of our official plan in 2023, which included excess lands in accordance with provincial growth plan in effect at the time. This plan, our official plan, was recently approved by the provincial government. The city's official plan, insofar as building height, because there's comments around building height, the city's official plan does not contain a height limit in the downtown core. The official plan does, however, currently contain height limits in the central area outside of the core and in strategic growth areas. However, those policies are currently under review as part of the Community Planning Permit Strategic Growth Area Secondary Plan as per a recent council direction, matter that I raised in this very room. Thirdly, the Housing Accelerator Fund. The city was successful in its application for the second round of Housing Accelerator Fund. The city will be directly incentivizing affordable housing and missing middle housing, including additional residential units, duplex, triplexes, fourplexes, and there will be more details to be provided to this council by way of a general committee report March 10. The city will also be establishing a public-private partnership policy and making city lands available for development. And to my colleague, Councillor Hakey, you may recall that's a matter that we raised in this council forum in 2024. Fourthly, process. The city is changing its policies for the betterment to support more housing faster. Recently modernized residential parking rates to require less parking overall, offer further reductions for social housing reductions, mixed-use buildings, on-street, and our on-street parking program is to come forth in 2025. The Housing Accelerator Fund commitment is to permit 4 units as of right on residential properties. And a bylaw and the associated missing middle community improvement plan, that report's coming forth in March. Fifthly, insofar as there was comments that our development process is flawed and it's slowing down development. We're the culprit. The city's the culprit. Now some facts. As of today, right now, the city has the following development applications in the pipeline, following development. 3 subdivisions are under review, representing 269 dwelling units. 6 subdivisions have draft approval, and they represent 2,713 units. 2 other subdivisions are currently under construction, with 536 units remaining to obtain building permits. As of September 1, 2024, the city had the following other developments in its land development and land use planning process. So dwelling units with site plan approval or under site plan review, 480 units. Dwelling units zoned and requiring yet site plan approval, 736 units. Dwelling units with official plan or zoning currently under review, so those applications are in our system, 840 dwelling units. Dwelling units that are still part of what we refer to as technical adequacy review. So these are ideas that eventually will culminate in land use approval applications, 1,931 dwelling units. And lastly, units that are at the pre-consultation stage, early ideas, early thinking, 7,593 units. Collectively, this is clearly demonstrative of an urban city that is actively ensuring cost-effective, process-appropriate housing development. The implication that this city, my city, and its land use approval process is an imperative to development is simply and factually incorrect. My comments, Your Worship, Chair Beamer, my colleagues in the community are made on behalf of my city, made on behalf of our city, and with which I'm proud to represent and proud to call home. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Degay. Well said. Thank you so much. Other business, anyone? Motion to adjourn, Councillor Crowley. We'll take a vote. And that is carried. We're in adjournment. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. We'll see you next week.
We have a special council meeting, right?
Sorry, everyone. We have a special council meeting. So I was trying to get us out of here. So we'll take a 3-minute recess while we change the technology, and then we'll have a very quick council meeting.
I guess I just closed this, right? Oh, the house.